Good afternoon, everybody. I am Joseph Ricka, the Superintendent of Schools of the White Plains City School District, and I'm also the President of the Lower Hudson Council of School Superintendents. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon here in beautiful Ossining. Thank you very much, Dr. Sanchez. And this is an important day. This is an important day because we cannot forget that right now, across the state of New York, students, teachers, parents, and guardians are all concerned about the fate of one of the greatest public education systems in the country. And New York is not unique. The other states that have borne the brunt of COVID-19 and were the first states to feel the impact of this national disaster have been left out in the cold. It's been months since we have been begging Washington to act on the HEROES Act, to come out and to support the people, the Americans who need their assistance and who deserve their attention. This afternoon, I am surrounded by not just friends and colleagues, but also folks who are devoted to public service and devoted to our communities and our children. We need Washington to hear our voices. The first voice I'd like to introduce this afternoon, Senator Pete Harkem. Thank you so much for being with us, Senator.
Thank you. Joe, thank you very much for those remarks, the kind introduction. Dr. Sanchez and all the team here in Ossining, thank you so much for welcoming us. To follow up, just give you a little backdrop on New York's financial situation right now. We have a $14.6 billion deficit that was created solely by the loss of revenue due to COVID-19 and the shutdown of the economy, primarily sales tax, but other forms of revenue. We are not unique. 50 other states in the United States are facing this. And in the backdrop of that, an economic crisis that we cannot cut, tax, or borrow our way out of, we are asking our school districts, these educators who are here with us today, to do more. We're asking them to do something that's never been done before in history, to open schools in the midst of a pandemic, to increase cleaning, testing, PPE, plexiglass, change the configurations of their schools, change the air handling systems. So at a time when the state does not have the money to fund them at a normal level, let alone this incremental stuff, we're asking them to do a Herculean effort. And they are amazing people, but they are not miracle workers. And so we are here yet again to call for Washington to stop the nonsense. This is not a blue state issue. This is not a red state issue. This is an American issue. This is an issue impacting all of the American people. And that's why we need federal assistance. Senator Schumer's proposed a $175 billion package nationally that would address the things that we were talking about: testing, PPE, transportation, cleansing, added staff, air handling. These should not be partisan issues. These people, teachers, administrators, are putting their lives at risk to educate our children. We cannot ask them to do that and not provide the resources that are necessary to do that. So I'm honored to stand with them and once again call on the federal government to do the right thing for the American people and pass federal relief for states, municipalities, and school districts so we can address opening, sending our kids back to school in a safe way that will protect students, parents, faculty, administrators, and support staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. It's now my pleasure to introduce our County Executive, George Latimer. George has been at the forefront of this fight against COVID-19 in positioning himself and the county as allies with our public schools. County Executive Latimer.
About 6 months or so ago, Dr. Joseph Ricka gave me a call and invited me to meet with some of the school superintendents that were meeting over at their headquarters on Homeside Lane in White Plains. And when we went to that meeting, myself, Ken Jenkins, our Deputy County Executive, we met with a group of school superintendents that were trying to work through one of the most difficult challenges that you have in public policy is that how do you deliver the public benefit of education to our young people in an age of a pandemic? And we were at the very front end of that back in March. Now, the county government does not have a direct authority over the school districts. We are a sibling government along with towns and cities and villages. We all are chartered by the state of New York. I served in the state legislature where Senator Harkem is now, and by the way, doing an outstanding job. So we became partners where we tried to figure out what could the county government do that would be helpful to the school districts, knowing that we didn't have either the resources nor the authority to directly do the things that they most needed to be done, but where we could, with our Department of Health, with our Department of Emergency Services, with some of the time and energy and effort of the people that we have to work together to deal with the issues that they had at that time. And it wasn't just our executive branch alone. It was County Legislator David Tubiello, County Legislator Catherine Borgia, who were part of the legislative branch that, working with the county executive branch, worked together with the school districts. That is exactly what they're asking now of the federal government. And the federal government does not happen to be at this point in the way of what we're trying to do if we're talking about our members of Congress. Because our members of Congress, Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney, outgoing Congresswoman Nita Lowey, who's been fantastic, outgoing Congressman Elliot Engel have been fantastic. Our United States Senators Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand have been supporters of the very things that we're talking about here. But the challenge we have now in trying to make a case is the same question is being posed bluntly to the leadership of the United States Senate and to the President of the United States that was posed to me 7 months ago. Are you going to be a partner? Are you going to help us through this difficult situation? And let's understand what education is. It is the single most in-demand public service that's provided by any level of government. We in the county government, Catherine heads the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Every element of spending goes through her committee. David has been involved in this as a staffer and now as an elected official at the county level. But all of the services we provide at the county level, the town of Ossining, the village of Ossining, you talk to the average person, why did you move to Westchester? Why do you stay in Westchester? Invariably, one of the first things they talk about is the quality of public education. Whether it's in Ossining or Yonkers, I went through the Mount Vernon school system, my daughter went through the Rye school system. And now I look as a father. My daughter's 35 years old. She has a couple of grandkids. I'm very proud of that. And she's a graduate of the public school system of Westchester County. She went on to get a BA and a master's degree. She's gainfully employed and happily married. Thank God for both things. But I say that because there is nothing more important to a resident of this county than the lives of their children. More important than the house they live in. More important than the car they drive. More important than the employment they have. Because jobs do come and go. Certainly cars come and go. But your children are forever. And what they get or don't get in the way of education shapes what happens in generations to come. When we talk about spending, we're using the wrong word. It isn't about spending. It's about investing. Because you're investing in this school behind me in the lives of adults that will occur. And if they get the right kind of education, the right kind of services, and that includes not cutting back on athletics, not cutting back on music, making sure that there's a full-bodied education for a third grader and a fifth grader and a ninth grader so they can go on to be productive adults. Productive adults contribute to the economy. They pay back far more in income taxes. Not that everybody pays their income taxes, but they pay far more in income taxes in the long haul than you spend now if you can assist these school districts in balancing their budgets. And they didn't have an unbalanced budget, nor do we in the county, nor do we in the state, because of mistakes that we made. We had the societal need to shut the society down to deal with this pandemic. And New York, certainly Westchester County, this area, we've done as good a job as we could in trying to stop the spread. We've gone months with minimal fatalities, minimal hospitalizations. Martin covers this regularly and sees the tracking of this thing. This is how you address the pandemic, but there's a cost to it. And the cost is now being borne by the various school districts because, amongst other things, the revenue isn't there for them to provide these services. They need that assistance. The state can't provide it because the state is in the same situation. So we turn first to the House of Representatives. They passed the HEROES bill. We turn to the Senate, and the minority leader of the Senate, our Senator Chuck Schumer, has outlined a game plan that could be the basis for us to move forward. So we ask the leadership of the U.S. Senate, and we ask the leadership of the President of the United States, are you investing in the future of America, or are you going to play politics with the lives of kids? Are you going to look, a school superintendent that's got a million headaches in his or her head right now just to function every day, are you going to turn to them and say, no, we're going to deny you the revenue you need because we're playing a macro game of politics? And I heard what McConnell said. He said, we don't want to burden the future generations with debt. Well, you should have thought of that before you passed tax cuts that would cost the federal government $2.4 trillion of money. You offset $1 trillion of it by taking away SALT deduction, but I digress. $2.4 billion in tax cuts. And what did the corporations do with it? They bought back stock. They didn't invest in R&D. So you're willing to give a $2.4 trillion benefit, but you're not willing to invest in the future of the children of this state and all the states like this. That's what this is about today. A county government is this big, and what we can do, we've done our best to try to do to help the school districts. Not because we're required to do it by law, mandated to do it, because it's the right thing to do. When Ray Sanchez comes to you, or not here today, Barbara Ferraro and Rye-Neck, George, we want to do a graduation, and we make Playland available for a drive-in graduation. Or Eric Byrne of the Rye School District says, can you help us? We're trying to put together a different kind of graduation ceremony. We're going to do a motorcade. You work with people that need it. That's the role of county government. That's what Catherine and David and their colleagues and we try to do together. And we don't always agree, but that's just the normal give and take of life. What we need here is a sober understanding by the leadership of the United States Senate and the leadership in the presidential White House, I almost said presidential palace. We need to have those people understand what's at stake by not financing these needs. And they need to have a course reversal, or there'll be a different kind of reversal ahead.
Thank you, County Executive. I'd like to welcome Legislator Borgia. I'd also like to welcome Legislator Tumiel. And I'd like to welcome Beth Sniffen from PTA. Beth, would you like to say a few words?
Hi, I'm Beth Sniffen, Region Director of Westchester East Putnam PTA. I'm not going to get political here, but I just want to say that it takes a lot of money to run our schools, And in addition, this year, we have to pay for all of the needs in this pandemic. So we are covering PPD equipment, we're covering all of those things in addition to all of the money that is needed to run our schools. The schools cannot afford to run the schools the way it is. We need the money from the federal government, and we need help from all the parents out there to help us get that money. So I'm going to ask all the parents there and everybody out there to help us with the advocacy that we need to help us get this HEROES Act passed. So we'll be looking for you to help us with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. The county executive really summed up what a community is and how important it is as Americans to behave as a community and look after each other. New Yorkers should be furious. New Yorkers are not asking for a handout. This is not a bailout. New Yorkers, just like the other 49 states, are looking for the federal government to intercede in a disaster. My colleagues, who I'm going to ask to come up and share some thoughts with you, have been working on this, like the county executive said, for over 6.5 months now. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to protect the programming that we built in our communities for our children so that we can protect the future of our communities and the great state of New York. Right now, I'd like to introduce Mary Fox Alter, Superintendent of Pleasantville.
Hi, good afternoon. For years, actually decades, this region, this great state of New York, has helped and supported every other state in the United States of America to the tune of over $1 billion every year. According to New York State Comptroller Thomas DiNapoli, during the fiscal year 2018, we paid out $26 billion more to the federal government than we got back. We ranked last in what we got back from the federal government. COVID-19 has hit us hard, and we are asking for a little help from our friends in Washington, a little help from our friends, from fellow Americans. We need this now. Friends who we have helped out year after year, decade after decade, to the tune of billions of dollars. It is a moral imperative that we not allow COVID-19 and the pandemic set us back and limit the exceptional learning opportunities for New York students while we keep our staff, our students, and our communities safe. Come on, America. We need a little help from our friends. We need help from Americans who we have helped out every single year consistently to the tune of billions of dollars. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Mark Biacco, proud superintendent of the Elmsford Union Free School District. I just remind everyone today that for many of us, our schools are the pillars of our community. And during this pandemic and throughout the pandemic, we have been fortunate to be supported by our immediate community. We've been fortunate to be supported by our Westchester County elected officials. We've been fortunate to be supported by our New York State elected officials. We now implore our elected officials in Washington to please support us during these challenges. Our students are coming back into our schools. We've made our schools extremely safe. And during that time, we're also asking that our students have the support that they need. Those supports are vast. We need mental health support. We need funding for IDEA, an issue that has never truly been funded properly. We need funding for our curriculum and assessments. We need funding to make sure that our students are getting exactly what they deserve. Please help us during this challenging time.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Basari. I'm the superintendent of the public schools of the Tarrytowns. And I think one of the things that always resonates with me is, and throughout these 6.5 months of putting in, a lot of effort, shedding a lot of tears, stressing a lot about every detail of reopening our schools for our students. What's motivated me, and I know everybody here, is the promise of American public education. Our country is built on the promise of American public education. It still serves as a beacon to the world. And behind me are superintendents that represent some of the most diverse school districts in Westchester County. Diverse means we have needs, and those diversities are racial, ethnic, learning ability, socioeconomic. Those needs are so important that they're met for this generation of students. And I know that in the public schools of the Tarrytowns, we've already committed over $600,000 to opening our schools safely and educating our students in the best way possible during a pandemic. So I really just want to implore everybody, but particularly the leadership in Washington, D.C., from the executive down through the Congress, to take that beacon, that promise of American public education, and look at it. And remember that their support is so important for us to continue on with our mission, and that is to prepare the next generation to be our future leaders, to keep our country safe and strong and prosperous. So passing of the HEROES Act is well behind the time that it should have happened. We shouldn't be here today, right? We should be worrying about other things. So support of our students, support of our state, and support of the future of America is absolutely critical. Thank you.
Good afternoon, David Mauricio, Peekskill City School District, proud superintendent. I'm so happy to be here with my colleagues and elected officials. I just wanted to take the opportunity on behalf of our children in the Peekskill City School District to first of all say a very big thank you, and I know my colleagues would agree with me. We want to thank our teachers, our administrators, our parents, our students, and the community at large for banding together and supporting our students during this very difficult challenge. One of our main goals is to make sure that our students prosper during this time. We will not be defined by COVID-19. We have to continue on our goals that we have set forth as a school district. It is called the Peekskill Promise to our families and to our students. But it takes fuel to make that initiative move forward. And I would like to share with you that, unfortunately, cuts by the state level, because of not receiving funding at the federal level during this time of great need, will disproportionately impact certain districts. And so what I need you to know that a 20% cut in Peekskill will be in the millions. So I'm not here today to advocate for keeping our football program. I'm not here to advocate for keeping our arts program and our theater program, who have been doing phenomenal programs for our students. I'm here to advocate because millions of dollars in cuts in the Peekskill City School District and other districts from my colleagues here today will definitely impact our educational programming, our social-emotional learning supports for our students, and our family engagement opportunities, which we know are critical to have our students have success. My parents came to America with the American dream. I am so thankful to this country for the education I received. I would not be here today if I had not been part of the New York City public school system, and I thank them for that. I'm asking you to call your representatives. I'm asking our federal leaders to do what is right. Provide the funding for our children because they need it to not only survive an educational pandemic that we're in right now, but also to continue prosper and not to lose ground. That is the goal. That is the promise we made to them. So to our federal officials, do what is right. It is the only thing to do on behalf of our children. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Edwin Quesada, Superintendent of the 4th largest city school district in New York, the city of Yonkers. Thank you, Ray, for the invitation. Thank you, Joe, for putting this together. Thank you, our dear county executive and the other elected officials for fighting for what's right. You know, just stop for a moment and think about what's missing right now. The sound of children preparing to go home after a full day of instruction in our public schools. That's what's missing right now from this space. You know, remember, ladies and gentlemen, that we are in a fight for public education right now. You know, now more than ever, there are many out there looking for us to fail. And it's important that we all realize that we, the superintendents here today and across Westchester County, are focused on making sure that our children return to our school. Something that we cannot compromise with. Our children are suffering, okay? And if funding is not properly appropriated or properly allocated, we will even have our children suffer more. Think about the fact that almost every dollar that we have in our capital budget has been depleted. Think about the fact that almost every dollar that we have as fund balance has also been used. Think about the fact that we already started accessing teachers and other professionals in our schools. Think about the fact that extended learning programs are now not in place in our schools. This is all the result of the inaction of Washington. Ladies and gentlemen, if we want to save public education, let us all call Washington and say that children are suffering because of them. This conversation is about children, our children, here in Westchester and New York State. Let us not allow one more day to go by without requiring that our senators come back and act on the HEROES Act, on the Children's Act. Thank you very much.
All right, so good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ray Sanchez, Ossining School District Superintendent. And I want to thank our county executive for being here, our senator for being here, and our county legislators for being here, along with my superintendent colleagues. It's always difficult to follow great leaders, so here we go. First few things I just want to reiterate. Number one, that schools are addressing more than just the academics. They're addressing the social, emotional needs of our children, their mental health needs. They're dealing with hunger and the kids that are struggling for a meal, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. The technology and the connectivity that they need, we're all working to make sure that we address and make sure that our kids can access the types of learning that are available to them at this time. And clearly, we're all focused on the health and safety of not only our students, but our staff and our entire community. We all represent different districts, but we share one thing in common. We want to ensure the success of every single child. Every single child from southern Westchester to northern Westchester. We want to make sure that they succeed, that they are able to think critically, and that they know deep down inside that everyone in their community and throughout New York State loves them and loves them dearly. This is why we're here. This is why public education exists. And so it's incumbent upon our legislators at the federal level to ensure that we have the funding that's necessary. We don't need instability, we need stability at this time. And this is not about now only, this is about the future of our, not only New York State, but our country. And so the investment now is going to have a positive impact towards the future. And so I leave you with this, which has been reiterated over and over and over again. The funding is necessary. It's an investment in our students at this time and in our students and the future of our country. And I know that we'll continue as superintendents and legislators here in New York together to make sure that our voices are heard. And I think it's incumbent upon everyone that is watching and listening to do the same. We can't avoid failure. We cannot find ourselves in a place of failure. We need to succeed, and we have succeeded to this point. We just need our federal support at this time. And so please, please implore that we receive the funding that is necessary to ensure that the programs that we've built over time aren't depleted and that our students aren't adversely impacted by this. So once again, I want to thank everyone that is here with me here today for their time, for the news, for being here as well, to hear our voices. And we implore everyone to please take action and make sure our voices are heard for our children. Thank you very much.